The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to another episode of Speaking with the Senator. I'm Senator Kevin Avard, representing District 12 here in New Hampshire. And today we're going to be talking with Eric Furey and about Azimuth Czech Foundation.
Yes.
I get it? All right,
Yes, you
welcome
did.
to the show.
Thank you.
All right. So you served in the military, Eric?
Yes.
Yeah, and
28 years, 14 active, couple of years active with the regular active duty, and then the rest of the 14 years, about 12, with the active Guard Reserve System, and then another 14 as a reservist and then National Guardsman.
It's quite a career.
Yes.
So thank you very much for your service.
Appreciate it. My honor.
Yeah, and so you're very familiar with the military, while you're in, while you're out, and the things that people are dealing with
Yes, I am.
on a regular basis. I just heard a commercial just before I got here. I was listening to the Howie Cox show, and there was a commercial about a veteran shouldn't be homeless, and not one veteran should be homeless, and that makes sense, right? I mean, you guys risk your lives, but some of them aren't homeless. Some of them are maybe disabled, or they're going through some PTSD, or there are other issues that they deal with that you're very familiar with.
Yes, I am.
And so you created this foundation called Azimuth Czech Foundation.
Yes.
Now, I know what a compass is,
Okay.
but I'd never heard of the phrase azimuth with a compass.
So there's a bezel ring, and that goes around a compass, and the bezel ring is all the degrees that we remember from geometry, 360 degrees. So 0 degrees and 360 would be due north, and then 180 would be due south, and then 90 due east, and then 270 due west. And so on the bezel ring is where you would dial the direction you want to go, and you also would orient the compass to the map, and the map you would turn with the compass to wherever north is on your compass. Of course, you'd take in declination, which is the magnetic differentiation because of the poles, and you would orient yourself. And that whole orientation between the compass, the map, and figuring exactly where you are, whether it be in the woods or wherever you're walking in the field, and not using a GPS and checking where you are is called an azimuth check.
And you personalize that.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So, in coming up, we started as Spades, Spades Veteran Foundation, and we started back in April of 2016. With that, I was brought on to folks that started an organization called Spades, and I was just going to be a member and help out. And I drove up, and it was a snow squall up by the Franconia Notch, and I actually was going up to say, guys, I can't do this. I don't have enough time. And when I went up there, I saw 4 dysfunctional in one way or another. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that 3 of the 4 were PTS and struggling. You can see they were struggling. And one was okay, it appeared. But of the 3, one of them I never met before, and if he was here and you would look at him, he looks like a probably 45-year-old version of Abraham Lincoln to a T.
Now, are these people that were active and recently
Yes,
retired?
they all had different stories. The one I'm talking about, I'll leave his name off, but he was a medevac paramedic, and he was working on medevacing people out of the helicopters. They would land, and the medevacs would go to work and relieve the medics that were on the field. And they're a little bit more trained. Sometimes the soldiers will just be combat lifesavers, where they know CPR, they know how to put a tourniquet on, they know how to just do basic life saving. Paramedics are those just like our advance of an EMT. And they would come in, land, and take the trauma patients first, however they're triaged. And he was friends with this young infantry soldier. And they're working on folks as they are flying, him and another paramedic. And finally, one of the other paramedics said to him in kind of gallows humor, "Hey, isn't that Joe?" I'm just using Joe. And the paramedic that I'm talking about now said, "Oh my God, it is." And so that changes everything when it becomes real personal.
Right.
There's no removing. He's not just a soldier in a camouflage uniform. So now it's I'm wearing a camouflage. He's wearing camouflage. He's hurt. He's a soldier. Yes, that. But now it is a friend.
Yep.
And now it gets real personal. And that triggered an episode with him in such a way that he actually woke up in restraints in Ramstein, Germany, where once they get triaged out of a combat zone in the Middle East, whether that be Iraq or Central Asia, Afghanistan, they will, once they're stable, they will fly on what's called an angel flight, a medevac, which means a big, huge cargo plane that's all set up like a traveling hospital with doctors and nurses, and they fly them to Ramstein Landstuhl Air Force Base, which is the actual name, U.S. Air Force Base over there, and then they will be stabilized there for more treatment, and either they can turn around and choose to go back or go back because it was a bad leg wound, but now it's healed and they're fine, and they go back and they're ambulatory and fine, or they are stabilized even more given surgery, and then we'll fly all the way back to Walter Reed or Bethesda, the Naval Hospital in the what used to be just a hospital. Now we have to think of it just like Dartmouth Hitchcock. It's spread throughout the state. So now when you go back to Walter Reed, you're really flying into the National Capital Region. So you can go to a number of hospitals, Belvoir or Fort Lee or Annapolis.
So he went to one of these facilities, and you could see it on his face, basically.
Well, he went to the one in Landstuhl,
Okay.
and it took his wife actually to fly over there to get him released out of the psychiatric ward. And they asked her to come over. It wasn't like he was imprisoned or anything, but he was just, reality had escaped him.
Right.
And
Has he recovered to some degree?
He is. So what he likes to say, he lives in Maine, and what he likes to say is that I came back home, they had me on 23 meds, Xanax, opioids, for pain, for, you name it, I was on it. And he said, I finally tried to wean myself off that, and he said, I can't do it totally on my own. So he said, I moved to Maine where I can use medical marijuana. So that's his choice. But the other gentleman that was part of our group was actually on 22 meds.
Did it help him get off the opioids?
It did. Well, it helped him get off all the drugs.
Right.
I mean, he was never never addicted to the opioids, but it was something that he was taking.
Right.
As he said, I wasn't addicted to any of them, but I was a pharmacy.
So how does your organization help somebody like him?
Well, if he wants to learn how to do so, if to help him, his interest is hunting. So there is 45 Degrees North, so I'm not sure if they're watching, but they're in Pittsburgh, New Hampshire, and he runs a bed and breakfast, fly fishing, hunting,
nice.
lodge, and that would be something great for somebody who leans towards that. So I've noticed in the military that people either lean that way, or they lean to where my interests lie and where I think there's a void in New Hampshire. And so we're not competing with 45 Degrees North. Our organization is to take the challenge of a mudder or a Spartan race or a triathlon or a bike race or a running event, or in this case on March 17th and 18th, March 18th, we're running a ski day.
2018.
2018,
Yeah.
yes. Running a ski event at Cannon Mountain for active duty Army veterans, and we've included first responders as part of our organization.
Oh, cool.
And the
Right.
reason being is we see there's a big need for them as well, especially in southern New Hampshire. I don't think people realize that we all get concerned with the veterans that are unfortunately committing suicide, but we have first responders.
I put in a study bill this year in the Senate for first responders. I really care about our military. My son is in the Army, Army Guard. My son-in-law is in South Korea right now on a year stint, or he's there for a year. But you know, your firefighters and your EMTs and your police officers, they see it every day, every day, every day, every day. And sometimes it's not the best of people. Or they don't see the best of mankind or
Not at all.
womankind. And after a while, that eats at them. You know, there's Christmases that they miss. There's, you know, there's the media dumping on them. And they do. You know, the media dumps on the cops all the time. It's after a while. So, you know, I put in a study build so that they could voice their opinion on, you know, what are you going through? How's this affecting you? How does this affect our you know, they basically are part of our infrastructure. But that aside, you're right, and I'm glad that you've included them in that. Now, is that a fundraiser, or is that just an event, or both, or how is that?
No, so this is a strictly, we have, we call events or fundraising events, and then we'll have programming events. And this is going to be a programming event where you are partnered with an adaptive sports, and they're adaptive sports partners of the North Country. And they've been doing it for years, but it's been a pretty good symbiotic relationship because they do not have veterans, didn't know how to reach out to veterans, and they're based out of Franconia. We're based out of Bethlehem, and there was kind of a marriage. And so we are kind of the umbrella or the conduit for both funding and bringing vets, and that's ours, and then they're the subject matter expertise. So it'll be a joint event on the mountain. But before they get to the mountain, or the stay at the mountain, to stay overnight, or the reception that we're going to have that night, it's pretty much on Azimuth check.
Okay.
But we couldn't do it without our adaptive sports partners up there.
And how do you get them involved with this?
So we have a website.
Yeah.
It's Azimuth Check Foundation, or make it easier is ACFNE for Azimuth Check Foundation New England.org. And by the end of the week, we'll have registration for folks that want to participate that are disabled. And disabled, I mean they are suffering PTSD, so they could be fully ambulatory, to they are wheelchair bound, or maybe missing a limb and have a prosthesis, or just missing a limb. And in those cases, we have through our partners at Adaptive Sports Partners, they can modify or have sit skis and different types of sit skis for as much participation or lack of participation because of the disability of the person. So they're just for somebody just getting out of the house and that cannot physically be able to ski in any sorts of way, there is a ride ski.
Okay.
But that's fantastic.
You're getting them out. You're
getting them out and going down. It's still a thrill.
Right. Yeah.
To go down a mountain.
And so that's just one event, but there are other events that
We're planning other events. This is our first event, and so we ideally want to do one event really well, and that's the March 18th, and then go from there. We've already tossing about the idea of maybe doing like a mudder, which is these races that are done in the mud.
Yeah, yeah.
And you'll be surprised. I mean, this war has, since 9/11, we've, you have special operations, whether they be Army Rangers or Marine Raiders or Navy SEALs or Green Berets, they are being allowed to stay, if they so choose, with prosthesis. It's just fantastic. I mean, there's crazy stories about one being in a firefight and sliding down a hill and his leg popping off and ended up losing his rifle and used his leg to defend himself.
No way.
It's an incredible story that it's really happening. And when I was coming back from deployment, there was a Army captain that was by a roadside bomb, and it exploded near his face, and he had lost vision in both eyes. And they were letting them stay. And in previous wars, they were just, I almost want to say, discarding these people, because what happens, and this is still an issue now, although it's improved, it's still a drastic issue. The VA is the VA. I don't need to go down that issue. But when you're in a tribe, so you have the military as a tribe, and then you have sub-tribes called the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Coast Guard, Marine Corps. And then within each of those, you might have artillery men, infantry men, and then you have your sisterhood of women that'll be in combat arms or are started to be in combat arms. So you have all these different tribes and sub-tribes. And so what happens is if you get it all the way down to, I'm just going to pick on the Army and the Marine Corps, all the way down to a platoon level, which is about 3 or 4 squads of 12 men, 9 men, that becomes a real tight unit. And the actor Adam Driver, who is in the Star Wars as the new kind of Darth villain, he was in the Marine Corps, and he didn't get to go overseas because he's one of our veterans who got hurt really bad on a mountain bike right before they deployed, and then the Army, in this case the Marine Corps, medically discharged him because of the injury he sustained himself. But they're also famous people. If you go back to like the 50s.
But psychologically, right there, what you're talking about is these people are in this unit, and then all of a sudden they're wounded, and then they're discarded. What does that do to your head?
So that's what I'm saying. The tribe, what happens is so let's just take, I'll use myself for instance. So I'm in Afghanistan, and I'm a Green Beret, and I'm with the unit, and I've been in this unit forever, or within units within the umbrella of Special Forces. And then I am somehow knocked unconscious. When I come to, let's say I'm in Landstuhl now, and I'm maybe missing a body part, and I've been unconscious and maybe seduced to be further unconscious in a coma for health purposes, but was originally knocked out. And then I heal well enough, but I'm kind of in like, wow, how did I get here? I woke up, and now it's 3 weeks later, and I'm missing a limb. Then I come back home, and that means home to the United States, and probably in the National Capital Region someplace at a Walter Reed or a Bethesda Naval Hospital. And I am there, and I'm starting to probably get more finer surgeries to heal, in this case, a stump on the leg, and improve the scarring, and improve more surgeries for nerve and damage. So I could be there another 6 months, 18 months, 2 years, and then during that time get fitted with a state-of-the-art prosthesis, and that's all really cool. But let's just say the injury and the nerve damage is such that the military just can't sustain, or I choose not to go further. I am now out of the military, and now I'm in the VA system, and all this happens, and even when I'm back home, I'm still in a tribe of healing community within other soldiers being healed. And once I'm back out as a civilian, it's one thing to do it, and it's even a struggle for those that are healthy. And the longer you've been in, the harder the withdrawals are to leave that tribe. But if you're injured and it's happening on a very acute timeline, it's pretty traumatic. In fact, I can't think of the author. He lives in west of Boston, and he's written several books, and he is the one responsible for, and it will come to me, for a documentary on Cornegal Valley in Afghanistan, which is a real nasty part of eastern Afghanistan. And he did a documentary, and he has now written a book, not so much on the documentary, but through his own PTSD as a war reporter, and what he has suffered, because you go in, and once you're in combat, whether you're participating firsthand as a soldier or a combat photographer, or whether you're repetitively, or maybe it's a major tragic like fire where a bunch of children get hurt and first responders, that adrenaline that you had to do that, because I think there is adrenaline in all of us.
I would imagine, yeah.
But leaving that first responder or that soldier, once they're no longer doing it, now they're going almost through adrenaline withdrawals. Then they don't have their tribe, their brother and sisters that they were in this tribe with, and now they're...
I can imagine you go into a deep depression of some sort.
Yes, so depression, but on top of the depression, you might be having PTSD, and you might be trying to figure this out. And there's a movie, it's based on the events that happened in the Boston Marathon. It just came out this year. I never remember it being in the theaters. Jake, and I never can pronounce his last name, but it's about one of the survivors from Chelmsford, and it's called Stronger. And
I haven't heard that either.
it's a fantastic movie about the struggles of one of the survivors. One of the more ones that was in the photos. He's in the wheelchair being wheeled off, and it's just very traumatic of what happened to his lower extremities and so forth. And he shows you, the movie very much shows you the struggle, and he was just a regular everyday American, just waking up and doing his job, and that particular day going to support his girlfriend at the time that was running in the race. And so you see the struggles he's going through.
Right.
It's very, very similar to what a soldier's going through.
This organization, is it exclusive to New Hampshire?
No, it's New Hampshire because I live in New Hampshire, and I don't live in Bethlehem where the organization's based out of. I live in Londonderry, but the organization's reach, it'd probably be, I would say, like New England, and because a lot of these veterans, we may not get all the veterans who are wounded or who have different things going on that necessarily want to learn how to ski.
So right there, your organization is basically helping them get into life, basically, in activities into life.
Yeah, and challenge them to do stuff that they didn't think they could do before.
Right, but it's not necessarily a therapy type of thing. It's more of a, hey, come on, join us. We can help you.
It's camaraderie.
Yeah.
So
back into a tribal type of.
Yes, and that, and so I guess it is kind of therapy.
Okay.
And it'd be therapy.
But it's not like you're there to sit in a room and talk about.
No, not therapy. This is therapy through, I'm not a psychologist, but through actually just participating.
Yeah. Come join. Hey, look, don't stay home. Hey, come join us. Get involved. Let's see if you can do the mountain one way or another, either through other things that we have there to help you get down that slope. That's what this is about.
Sure.
Getting you out there. And depending upon how well this goes, which you want to do it well, like you said, that there'll be other activities where you go, hey, let's do this. Let's go climb Mount Kilimanjaro or something like that.
Sure.
Not right now, but obviously.
So we have myself and 4 other board members. So I'm going to give you a bunch of jobs that they have, but there's 3 former Green Berets, 1 former veteran of the Army. He was hurt in a training accident, and the Army botched his ACL surgery. So now, unfortunately, he has a little bit of a limp, and so he's permanently disabled from botched surgery. And so he's on board with us, and he keeps us planted because he tells us because of his disability, and it's not due to war. He'll be the first to admit it, doesn't try to hide it, but he tries to tell us the different things that we have to think about because we take for granted because we're able-bodied or walking around. So he's part of us. And then we have now one of the folks is a chief of police in New Hampshire, and we have a doctor who is a father of an Army Ranger, and he's not in the military, and that's good too because we have civilians. And then we have.
Listen, when our kids go out there, right? We're still part of it, right?
Oh, everybody's part of it.
We're part of it. I mean, I didn't go, wasn't in the military, but when my son was in Afghanistan, I made a little video, a song. I put it out there to 800 different places out there just for people to pray for him.
Sure.
And he came back home. My son-in-law is in South Korea right now, but South Korea. We're with them. We're on this side of it, worrying. So it is nice to know that you have a civilian in there.
Sure.
Because
so our
you get our perspectives.
So our event, because of the intensity of working with various disabilities that we might be exposed to, we can handle up to 6 chair skis. So that means anybody that's required to sit in a chair. Now, there's various levels, as I mentioned earlier, of their capability. So we have different chairs that we call them sit skis.
Sure.
Different sit skis that they can sit depending upon their comfort level. And so they're going to be paired with an instructor. But we're doing 12 plus 1. So 12 plus 1 means that we are going to provide soup to nuts, hotel, food, the whole thing. I need a commitment from them, so I'm asking for a $50 registration fee, refundable upon arriving.
Is that the whole cost?
The cost to one of these 12 veterans and one person is essentially nothing.
Wow.
The cost to them at first would be $50 on a credit card or PayPal, because I can't commit all these resources, and them thinking, hey, it's free, what does it matter if I don't show up? So I had to have them feel like they have some skin in the game, and if they actually do show up, then I will credit their credit card or refund them, or I will do what I have to do, write them a check on the spot through our to give it back because they showed up. However,
now we got just a couple of minutes, so I just want to make sure that
Sure.
people know how to find you again.
okay, so the organization is Azimuth Check Foundation. We are located at on two different ways. There's a quick way. The quick way is www.acfne.org, or you can find us by our full name, www.Azimuth Check Foundation. And Azimuth is kind of a little funky spelling for some people who's never spelt it. Is A-Z-I-M-U-T-H, check like you're writing a check, and then, of course, foundation, all one word.
We were talking a little bit off air, and just about the azimuth, and you know, military people know, you know, hey, check what's your azimuth, you know, check your station, right? Look, if you're lost, or if you're not where you're supposed to be, or something's not right, check it. You know, come on, come with us.
Sure.
Come down the mountain, or enjoy this time, a fellowship, if you will, or of camaraderie.
Camaraderie.
And you know, maybe this will help you get your compass set back in the right order.
Well, our why, so I believe you need to find your why before you do your what and how.
There you go.
And so our why has actually become our mission statement. And it sounds real easy byline, but it was very painful with 5 gentlemen trying to come up with this. And we are, so it's Azimuth Check Foundation, and right underneath it, it's usually helping heroes find their way.
Helping heroes find their way. Excellent. Eric, I really appreciate you coming on, and thank you very much for your service. And we
Appreciate it.
We'll spread the word. Hopefully you can get on Howie Carr and share the word there as well.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
So, yeah, well, thank you for watching Speaking with the Senator. That's okay. He's in a hurry to get out there. So, thanks for watching Speaking with the Senator. And if you want to get involved, or if you know somebody that would like to take advantage of this, call Eric and get in touch. Okay? Until next week. Thanks for watching.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.